Today on the Locked On Hornets podcast, we'll recap some of the Final Four games over the weekend. Cooper Flagg, his freshman year, his career, maybe, I think so. His college career comes to an end. We'll go through what kind of special season he had in Durham, and then we'll get to another mock draft. That's today, Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube. There's Doug Branson. You can see him on everyhornetsboxscore.com as well as YouTube. You can also find his work writing the Locked On Hornets daily newsletter. He's hosting Locked On NBA with Matt Moore and Hayes. He's doing a lot of different stuff. I'm Walker Mehl. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And finally, that newsletter I was talking about that Doug is writing. You can sign up. There's a one-stop. It's your one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Locked On Hornets daily newsletter. Sign up for free. LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Hornets newsletter. All right, the Hornets, they lose. They lose to the Bulls, 131 to 117. Pretty numb to it. This is what we expect from a bad basketball team that is fighting for Cooper Flagg. So we can marry these stories together because there are 4 games left to go with this season, Doug. There are not many left. It feels just like yesterday. We were saying that there's only 10, and now here there are only 4 games for the Hornets left to play. The Hornets now have a 2-game lead, if you will. This is how we're going to frame this. The Hornets have a 2-game lead on the Pelicans for a 14% chance to have the number 1 overall pick in this upcoming NBA draft. It's Utah at 16-63 right now. It's Washington at 17-61. It's Charlotte at 19-59. Those are your 3 teams with a 14% chance to draft Cooper Flagg. Charlotte is 2 games above the Pelicans in that 4 spot at 21-57 is where New Orleans is right now, with the Hornets only having 4 games left to go. Feel like you can breathe a little easier if this is your bag right now, if you are a tankanista and you are full-blown lose every single game, which at this point, I got to tell you, you'd be highly incentivized to lose every single game and not mess around with having the Pelicans jump you with the best odds. So the Hornets, though, Doug, knock on wood, you hear it, wood desk, I'm knocking on wood, looks like they're going to be one of the worst 3 teams in the NBA. Good for us.
Yay. Yeah, so their remaining games against Memphis. Memphis still fighting for a playoff spot, trying not to drop into the play-in, so they will definitely be playing to win. Toronto, that will be interesting. Boston, I think, even with even if they start to rest guys to get ready for a potential first-round series, they still have enough firepower to go up against what's left of the Charlotte Hornets. It really all comes down to how much do they intend to play Mark Williams and Miles Bridges? Because even in these games that they've lost, Miles Bridges is still scoring pretty well. Mark Williams is still doing a few fun things here and there. And so, it's really when you take those guys off the court that the inexperience and the ineffectiveness and just not being able to do anything offensively shows up, and is typically enough for the Chicagos and the Sacramentos and the Indianas of the world to eventually overcome the Hornets. So I don't expect them to win any of these games. Right now I was looking at the losing streaks. So Utah has lost 9 in a row. Washington's lost 2 in a row. Charlotte and New Orleans lost 3 in a row. Philadelphia 11 in a row. They are really making sure they keep that first round pick. So I think this is pretty locked. I think it's Utah, Washington, Charlotte, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Brooklyn. Like that top 6 I think is pretty locked.
Yeah, Pelicans have a game against Brooklyn. The other games they have are against teams that are competing. So Pelicans, they have, I believe, 4 games left as well. Yeah, it's Brooklyn, Milwaukee on the road. Then they finish up with Miami, Oklahoma City at home. So maybe Oklahoma City in that last game is sitting everybody because they're not playing for anything. So we'll see.
Maybe, but they lost 2 games over the weekend. So they may need to just get like 1 at the end to propel them into the playoffs. So who knows?
Okay, there you go. All right, let's move on to the prize of the number 1 overall pick being Cooper Flagg. It's a bigger prize than usual. It's a bigger prize than what you would have had last year if you were selecting number 1 overall. Hell, it's a bigger prize than most years. Not the Wemby seasons. The Zion stuff, I think that's probably more in line with what you're getting here with Cooper, but it's still a big prize. Cooper Flagg, his season comes to an end, Doug. They lose to Houston in excruciating fashion. A lot of happy Tar Heel fans around here after the Duke Blue Devils fell. They had a 6-point lead. They had a 6-point lead with 30 seconds left, and then Houston came back because of some awful turnovers on the inbounds pass. Maybe Sion James can be a Charlotte Hornet with his turning it over on the inbounds pass. You have you have Duke losing with, again, with 30 seconds left, having a 6-point lead. They had a double-digit lead in the second half over Houston. Most people had already written Duke on to the championship game, and then Houston come back. Free throws. Oh, God, it was a complete disaster. Cooper missed a shot, Doug. He had a shot for the go-ahead. It was 69. It was 68-67, nice. I believe, right? Not so nice. 68-67. It was a 1-point game. Cooper Flagg rises up for what's a pretty good look against one of the best defensive teams in college basketball, where he's about 10, 12 feet out and misses it a little bit short. Career done. At least we think so. Maybe there's a conversation to be had there. But he'll go down as having one of the best freshman seasons in Duke history, which is saying something, and in ACC history. Having shot 48% from the field, he shot 38.5% from three. He averaged over 19 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, over 4 assists per game, shot 84% from the free throw line, can do it all defensively, was rated maybe the best defensive player in all of college basketball. Last year, it was a sham. He didn't win it for the ACC, but he had all the other awards, so I don't know how much he cares. What will you make of Cooper Flagg's lone season at Duke, Doug?
Yeah, per 36, 3 stocks. Got over a block and a half and over a steal and a half per 36. It was amazing to watch. Just the way he can single-handedly control a game. On Take-a-thon, they do stat strengths and stat weaknesses. It's all strengths. They don't list a single stat weakness. Box plus minus, win shares, defensive box plus minus, offensive rating, defensive rating, assist to turnover. It's all plus for Cooper Flagg, and it's exciting that the Hornets will be in prime position, or at least somewhat prime, being with those 14% odds of getting Cooper Flagg. You know, I don't punish him at all for the way that season ended, although I will say that both spraining his ankle and getting a horse bleep over the back call, no respect from the referees in that big moment, he is perfectly prepared to be a Charlotte Hornet, right?
There you go. There's a couple of different things. When we were mad at Mark Williams earlier, you especially earlier this season, Malawach didn't come away with a single rebound. Perhaps that could mean that he's a perfect Charlotte Hornet. Didn't have a single rebound in this game.
That's great. That's how?
I know.
How?
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, you could talk about stretching him out. There's no excuse. You're over 7 already. Already after 1 year at Duke, after having not played basketball until he was like 16, he's already malawashed coming into the NBA. So it was brutal. I just can't help but think, though, like, I know it's been a long time since the Hornets have had the number 1 overall pick. We've gone over the lack of good luck here in this city when it comes to the lottery. So some of the picks they've hit on, like, I actually think it's kind of underrated how many picks the Hornets have hit on once they have drafted towards the top of the draft. In fact, history might tell you, there's not any bad misses when you're drafting within the top 3 or 4. There's not many. So perhaps they're even underrated when hitting on some of those picks. But they don't have a lot of luck, right? Part of the reason that it would be so important to get the number 1 overall pick, I mean, it's just the anticipation, right? Like, it's just, you have the number 1 overall selection. Now you have this however many week process before you actually select that player, but everybody knows who they're going to select. So you even have time to get everything in order. When you have that selection, you know exactly what you're going to do. Now media can start flocking over to the Queen City. Now everybody can start saying nice things about you. Hey, Cooper really is going to turn that franchise around. And it's just so much good press. It's so much good vibes being thrown into that organization. Now, you also have this new practice facility. I'm sure that's going to be like an insider's favorite thing. They got a new practice facility they're building over there. Like they're going to transform this franchise. I can see all of that happening if I see the Hornets logo revealed as the last team revealed. And if they don't, then all that goes out the window. It's just been a while since we've had a collective good vibes process heading into the NBA draft.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if Cooper Flagg is the pick, all of a sudden, the Hornets are going to be expected to do certain things. Not necessarily like be a contender next year or anything. That would be ridiculous. But there will be a brighter light. They will have some national TV games. If they go to 2, if they rise to 2, or they stay at 3, or they fall to 4 and 5, all of a sudden you're back in the same territory you were in, which is now you've got to become a sneak contender like Detroit. You've got to make your draft selection, make it count, and then build up through there. But if you get Cooper Flagg, all of a sudden I think a lot of the expectations change, and certainly there's going to be much more attention.
All right, let's do a weekend recap. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
Let's go through this game yesterday against Chicago, and also we will talk about their Friday matchup against Sacramento. Beatdown City against Sacramento. Not nearly as bad against Chicago, even though they lost both of them. We'll comb through those games next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. We appreciate Monarch Money as a pull them up. There you are. Ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. With all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, you can go beyond just managing money and start building wealth. You might be surprised at how much you're spending on things like food delivery or streaming subscriptions, but with Monarch, you'll see exactly where your money is going so you can budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, Monarch Money makes it easy to check your finances, track spending, and even plan for long-term goals all in one place. And if you're managing money with a partner, it's never been smoother. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals together, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Let's go with the most recent game. They played against the Bulls last night. Again, they lost 131-117. And as previously mentioned, there are only 4 more games to go. You look at the box score, the starting lineup, they had a couple of guys there, Doug. Like, they didn't sit all of them, right? They did play Miles Bridges. Rough game for him, actually. Only 8 points for Miles Bridges in this game. Only 19 minutes as well. But he was 3 of 12, just didn't have it going. Mark, I thought, looked good, had 22 points. He was 7 of 11 from the field. So he's been really shooting with some efficiency lately inside the paint, and even hit a jumper. Was it against Sacramento? I think he hit a jumper against Sacramento. Oh, no, he took a 3. That's right. I'm sorry. He took a 3 last night. Missed it. It was in and out. I wanted it, but he shot a 3 at least against Chicago. Had a big fourth quarter, but also 14 points before going into the fourth quarter in what was real garbage time. I thought Mark gave another strong outing. KJ Simpson, though, perhaps that's the story here, Doug. 18 points for KJ. He was 7 of 13 from the field. He shot 3 of 6 from distance, and now you saw him put together back-to-back nice games. Put up 13 points against Sacramento, was 60% from the field. Only 3 turnovers in these last 2 games, despite playing 65 minutes combined. Okay, like there's some stuff here with KJ. What you think about the second-round rook?
Yeah, he looks a lot more confident. He looks like he knows what he wants to do with the ball, particularly if he has an idea to score. He was getting into the lane pretty easily and getting into his floater. The 3 started to come online against Chicago. How many did he drop against Chicago? Yeah,
3 of 6.
So he was 1 of 4 against Sacramento, 3 of 6. And that's going to be the big thing for him. I mean, I think it's great that he's having these games, that he's gotten better. I think he's, if you just look at player development, and because he's been in the system the whole time, and he started the year injured. So he was like, having to come back from that and figure some things out in Greensboro, and then sort of going back and forth between Charlotte and Greensboro. But he came in so confident in his ability. He wanted to, quote, run through a brick wall for this franchise. He seemed to exude the kind of attitude, and you just wondered, like, was that going to translate to on-court production? And particularly his outside shot, because of his size, he's going to need that. And it started to come online against Chicago. I hope to see him continue that, be consistent through the rest of the year, and that will give me some hope that next season, in the preseason, in the lead up, in summer league, that we see a determined KJ Simpson that looks different, that looks better, and he'll fight for an opportunity to be part of a rotation next season that is not guaranteed to be out of reach for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a possibility KJ Simpson can work his way up. And honestly, he's played a lot better than Nick Smith Jr. has played really all season. I mean, I think he's bumped NSJ in the sort of whatever you want to call it, the pecking order of guards that they'll look at next season. You know, I think it was NSJ in the lead position, the guy that that Coach Lee was working with in summer league, because KJ wasn't around. He was working with NSJ a lot. I think you'll see that flip. He's going to be working with KJ a lot. I could see him as the lead guard for summer league and somebody that contends for the rotation next season.
No, Nick Smith Jr. is the guy to look at. Now, I don't know if KJ Simpson has passed NSJ quite yet. And maybe that for sure for you, like, I get that. The thing about him, man, I think Charles Lee really likes him. Nick Smith Jr., that is. I do. I think we even saw him speak about Nick Smith Jr. late March, saying, I've seen a ton of growth from him. He had just glowing comments, so many areas of growth. I've been so happy with Nick. Defensively, I've noticed a little bit more attention to detail. I think he's always moving. He has a great energy and effort. I just feel like the attention to detail and the purpose behind his movements now have been a little bit more deliberate or intentional, understanding who he's guarding, just continuing to go on, honestly, even offensively. I think you have these guys. I know you have these guys that you identify as real pieces that can figure it out as you move on. I do think Charles Lee has identified NSJ as one of those players. And I do think, to Nick Smith Jr.'s credit, I do think you've seen him get better overall this year. Sure, he still has some of these down games. I wouldn't call this a bad season to the point where he just didn't do anything with his opportunity. I think that he's done enough with an opportunity of him having played enough minutes to where, yeah, there's some still bad games, but like enough to, okay, like, yeah, you've earned it. Your right to compete going into next season. And I still would have him above KJ. Like, I like KJ better as a player. I'm telling you, I like the idea of what KJ can bring a little bit more as a player. If you're asking me who do I think is still ahead on the pecking order, according to that coaching staff, I think Nick Smith Jr. is still ahead on the pecking order.
I have no inside information on the pecking order. He's not ahead on my pecking order. I've seen better things here late from KJ. Now, again, all of that stuff gets reset next season. Both of these players are going to have to come in and show that they've added something to their game, that they can be more consistent, that they can deliver when games actually matter. You know, that's what we saw from James Bouknight so many times. Like, he would end the season so well, and then we come back the next season and he would get inserted into a game that mattered, and he couldn't come up with the requisite shots necessary to justify him being on the floor. I think Nick Smith Jr., on the other hand, has improved a lot defensively that can help you to overlook some of the deficiencies offensively, but they've been so bad. Like, the offense has been so bad that it's even been difficult, though he's been giving more effort on the defensive end. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm going to put the possibility out there that, look, if they fall to 2 and they end up drafting Dylan Harper, both of these guys could be out. Like, it's just neither of these guys are guaranteed anything. They're going to have to continue to claw, scratch, fight their way into this rotation. Right now, I'm just more confident that KJ can be that guy over NSJ.
Yeah, now look, I will say too, as much as I like KJ, I think he's an absolute dog. His offense is still it's still terrible. Like, I mean, you're talking about two games from KJ, and the efficiency for both of these guys are just absolute terrible. So we'll see what they can do as they go into this next season. Any other thoughts from what you saw over the weekend against Sacramento? Blowout again there. Like, they suffered that loss to Sacramento. It was a rough one. And then this one wasn't quite as rough against Chicago, but still a double-digit L. Any other thoughts that you had from what you saw on Friday and yesterday?
My Kobe White will be the best player out of the Zion draft. Not looking terrible. Not looking as terrible as it has in years past. Kobe White dominated the Charlotte Hornets in the second quarter, 18 points, but it wasn't just because it's Charlotte. If you haven't been paying attention to the Bulls, that's okay. But Kobe White and Josh Giddey have been really propelling that team farther than they have any right to be propelled. So Kobe White, he's awesome. I'm happy to see that. Sacramento, man, they just pounded the Hornets inside him. Mark Williams didn't play. The injury designation was thoracic muscle spasm, which doesn't sound very fun. But he did come back, so he seems fine.
And he played 30 minutes against Chicago, so they played him quite a bit.
He's fine. But he didn't play in this game. I don't know that he would have helped because, like, Sabonis, and then they throw in Valanciunas. I forgot. Valanciunas just keeps following us around. I forgot that he got traded to the Kings. And, man, he is just a beast inside. Funny post-game comment from Coach Lee when asked, to evaluate himself in year one as a coach. And he said, I think I've been pretty perfect. And then he went on to give a serious answer of, the difficulties for any coach coaching this kind of season. But I think for a first-year coach, having to pick your spots. I think if you can, he had a long comment, but if you can boil it all down, I think the challenge for coaches is when do you go in on a team, and when do you and what scenario do you do it? Do you do it at the podium? Do you do it in film session? Do you do it in individual sessions? Like, a lot of people want to focus on the X's and O's, and when you get into playoff scenarios, when it's like one game for your life, game 7, that's when the X's and O's really start to matter. But I think for these teams that are developing like the Hornets are and just trying to survive these seasons until they get better, so much of this comes down to people management. And I think he's gotten good reviews from the players so far who seem to still be fighting for him, particularly these young players. So, my grade on Coach Lee's first year is going to be a thumbs up relative to, the terrible situation he was put in with all of these injuries.
I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, that we can go to your precious mock draft. I did want to say, remember we had our trend, friend or foe segment that probably was about mid-March, probably about what 3 weeks now, 2 weeks or something. Yeah. We had Miles Bridges up there, and we were trying to figure out whether it'd be a friend or a foe. We both went friend, and this was fresh off of what he did at the beginning of March, where he's just going bonkers, right? The 30-game stretch, the 46-pointer against Cleveland, had 35 against Miami, another 35 to really set some things off against Golden State. And we both said, he'll continue. He's not going to score 30, right? We did that. He's not going to be the MVP candidate that he was for that 5-game sequence, but it's still going to be a friend to him. I don't know if you could say that for these games that he's played really since then. Had some single-digit scoring outputs since then. Not been shooting the ball well at all from the three-point line. He's had a couple games here and there, but some bad games too. He had that 4 games in a row, 0 of 7, 1 of 8, 1 of 9, 1 of 6. He was 0 of 4 against Chicago, but only 19 minutes. How much of this has been that the friend is the trend is a foe to him, and how much of it is like they want to lose, they suck, who cares? Miles isn't caring anymore. Like, how much of that do we throw on what we're seeing from Miles the last, I would say, 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, I think it's all the latter, right?
Okay.
I think he's put enough on tape that if the Hornets were to approach a team about Miles Bridges, they're not going to look at these last 10 to 15 games and evaluate them based on that. They're going to look at when the Hornets there was a brief little window there where they were trying to compete, and they never got these 3 guys together, Miles, Brandon, LaMelo. I mean, I'm not sure how many games they play, but it has had to be in the single digits, right? So they could never get this 3 together. So it's going to be difficult to evaluate him regardless. But I think you can look at the period there where they were trying to compete, and he was giving the Hornets valuable minutes and improved himself on the defensive end enough. And then I think the Hornets as an organization, they are supremely confident in Miles's commitment to the organization and commitment to playing the way the team needs him to win basketball games, and his ability to sort of morph that. If LaMelo's out, if Brandon's out, he's fine taking that lead role. And when those 2 guys are healthy, he's fine stepping back and playing that third role. So, like, I don't think the organization has any problem with his competition level. So whatever you see over these last, couple of games, it doesn't matter.
I agree. I'd like him to shoot better, but I'm sure he would do this. I'm sure he would tell you that.
It would make
as
my
well.
eyes. It would make my eyes bleed less. They would still bleed, but they would bleed less if he would hit a few shots. Yes.
Overall, I absolutely agree with you. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
We have another mock draft, and now we have some finality to some of these guys' seasons that we can speak about. And we'll give you the 11th mock draft out of 61. Yeah, there's more days, right? But we don't do weekend shows. So we still have a long way to go, but we're in the double digits, folks. So just hang tight with each mock draft that we'll give you every single day. More to come. Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team, diving into player props as well, from three-pointers to steals to assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. More Locked On Hornets ahead. The keeper of the Sicko Satchel, the keeper of the mock draft. You have another mock draft to give to the people today. Which one do you have for us after we get to see some of these Final Four games over the weekend?
I have a very fresh mock draft here, April 4th, 2025. This one coming to us from USA Today. Jeff Zilgett, Lorenzo Reyes, and James Williams of USA Today doing this mock draft. It's actually not a team-oriented mock draft, so it's more of a big board style. So that means I can spin the draft simulator here on Tankathon and see where the Hornets land. This hasn't gone well for us, but it's a new week, it's a new day, it's Monday. Let's see how we do. Beep, boop, 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 beep, boop. Hey, the Charlotte Hornets move up one spot to number 2, and I'm glad they did because I actually watched tape on the guy that USA Today has at number 2. So Cooper Flagg goes number 1. We talked about him already. But how about Dylan Harper from Rutgers? Calling him a guard here. Played a lot of point for Rutgers, but you could definitely see him in a shooting guard and an off-guard role. 6'6", 215, 19 years old. I'll just say the thing that impressed me most in watching a little bit of tape of Dylan Harper over the weekend is his footwork offensively. Once he gets inside the three-point line, it was just game over for a lot of defenders in the college ranks against Harper because he looked like, I'm going to throw a guy that we've talked a little bit about in terms of who LaMelo is and who he isn't. And one guy we sort of, I think, both agree that he isn't is Cade Cunningham. And Dylan Harper gives me a little bit of those Cade shivvies. Like, he's like, whoo. Like, I'm loving what I see out of Dylan Harper in terms of his ability to score when he puts his head down and goes to the rim. It was exciting. And I think, honestly, would be the sort of starting point of the argument that you could have a Dylan Harper, LaMelo Ball backcourt that could work because I think their offensive pluses actually complement one another with Brandon Miller playing the 3.
Yeah, well, right. Like you mentioned it there. The first thing you read and the first thing that you even talked about, right? It's he can get into the paint and he can finish once he gets into the paint. And that is something that a guard just doesn't have on this team. In fact, here we are talking about all of these guards, right? Whether it's LaMelo, whether it's Brandon playing the 2, whether you go to these second, late first round projects like Nick Smith Jr. and KJ Simpson, KJ is the one that has shown some ability to get into the paint, and he's actually scoring a little bit better now. And that's easy to see, honestly, from KJ. I thought at the beginning of the year, you could see him show some finishing chops, even though he was still finishing terribly. That has since gone up, which thumbs up to that for KJ. But they still don't have that skill set on the roster from a guard. They would have that big time if they drafted Dylan Harper. So maybe we just have the fun combo that we did a couple of years ago. Can LaMelo and this guard that might be drafted real high coexist on the floor with one another. The conversation has changed because we've seen 2 more years of LaMelo since we had the Scoot Brandon debate. Even though it was never about taking the ball all the way out of LaMelo's hands, you still have fun, I think, complementary basketball between both of these players in Dylan Harper and LaMelo. And also, you have some insurance. If LaMelo misses a ton of games like he's missed for the last 3 years and you do choose to keep him on the roster, Dylan can give you a little bit of point guard depth. So I would love this pick. I'd go right here, Doug. I don't know about you after watching more tape, but it'd be Cooper 1. I'd go right on to Dylan Harper at number 2 if you don't get the number 1 overall pick.
Oh, totally. I think I would be bummed about not having the opportunity to take Cooper, but I would go quickly into, wow, Dylan Harper can also shape a franchise. It's not going to be as sure of a thing as Cooper because you get so much of the defensive. I mean, he just does everything. But Dylan Harper does a lot as well. And with the size, he has positional size. 6'6". Can you imagine 6'7" LaMelo with otherworldly passing ability, 6'6" Dylan Harper with a 6'10" wingspan, with I think what will develop into otherworldly scoring ability at the rim? That would be a potent attack. And I think, he's much more proven than Scoot Henderson was as a prospect coming in. And so, and I think what factors into this is what Cleveland's done this year. I think you've got to take a look at that and say, look at what 2 undersized ball-dominant guards were able to do in Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Look at what that tandem was able to do. And you know what that tandem was also able to do is one guy could sit and the team be okay because Darius Garland could step up when Donovan needed rest or was injured and vice versa. And so it's just what winning teams have. They have a lot of talented players, and sometimes the skill sets overlap. But as long as you have guys that have good pass, shoot, drive, decision-making capabilities, you can always figure out a way, particularly if you have a good coach. That's what Kenny Atkinson has done there with Cleveland. I think Charles Lee could do the same thing with Charlotte, is figure out how all of those puzzle pieces fit. But you got to go get the puzzle pieces, and Dylan Harper, boy, I think he would fit tremendously well in Charlotte.
I'll just read this quick paragraph on Danny Chow's The Ringer draft guide. He's got a write-up about Dylan Harper, and this little paragraph is, getting to the rim is the hallmark of his game. It also helps to be able to finish in the paint. Luckily, Harper is one of the best at that in recent NCAA history. If you strictly looked at his at-rim shooting percentage, you would think he was a rim-running big man. So he gets there and he's uber efficient.
Him, man. I think when you watch him and you see his size and how he just bullies people at the rim, and I get it, it's college, it's going to be much different, but it always takes a little bit of an adjustment period for these guys. But he has NBA pedigree. His father, Ron Harper Jr., like this guy knows what pro ball is. He knows what pro ball looks like. He's been around it. So Dylan Harper's going to come in and have an immediate impact.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I like the idea of pairing him with LaMelo, right? Like we're going to have this conversation a million times, especially if they get that second overall pick. In fact, I think Dylan you'd love for him to be able to knock down shots more consistently, and so he can play off ball a little bit better when LaMelo has the ball in his hands. But there are still ways that you could figure that out and go to your strengths as an off-ball secondary ball handler. Sometimes you're the primary guy, but I love the idea of putting these two guys on the court at the same time. So we'll see. Let's get Cooper. If we don't get Cooper, let's get Dylan Harper. If we don't get Dylan Harper, now I think you're starting to. Okay, VJ or Ace, still some good players, but Dylan Harper for sure. I think there's a reason that everybody has him as that second guy to take. And we've done this before, though. We've had very similar conversations like this just a couple of years ago. So we'll see how it all shapes up.
It almost feels destined that they're going to stay at 3.
Yeah.
It almost feels destined because it's going to force us into one of these other conversations. Is it VJ?
Right.
Is it Ace? They're two very different players in a lot of respects. And then I think we're still really early in this draft process. I'm also not discounting the idea that someone else jumps up into that 3, 4, 5 discussion, whether it's Knipple or Trey Johnson or even a guy like Asa Newell. I watched some tape on him too. He's a very interesting forward, small ball center who can get up and down, who can shoot, who looks it's a little like Derek Lively-esque, where it's like that guy shouldn't be as athletic as he is. Good pick and roll big as well. So yeah, I mean, just a lot of interesting names that I can't wait to dig in. I'm starting. No more ignorance plays. I am starting my draft analysis in full now that the NCAA tournament is wrapping up.
April 7th, it's here. It has started. We'll be giving you draft coverage really all the way up until they select whoever once the NBA draft is finally here. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube. Doug Branson also hosting Locked On NBA with Matt Moore and Hayes. He's also writing about the Hornets on everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm talking about the Hornets. I'm talking about a lot of Charlotte sports topics on Wes and Walker Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.